Lying thinking last night, how do I find my soul a home where water is not thirsty and bread loaf is not stoned? I came up with one thing, and I don't believe I'm wrong, that nobody, but nobody, can make it out of here alone. Alone. All alone. Nobody, but nobody, can make it out of here alone. There are some millionaires and billionaires with money. They can't use their wives, run around like banshees. Their children sing the blues. They've got expensive doctors to cure their hearts of stone. But nobody, nobody can make it out of here alone. Alone, all alone. Nobody, but nobody, can make it out of here alone. Now, if you listen closely, I'll tell you what I know. Storm clouds are gathering. The wind is going to blow. The race of man is suffering, and I can hear the moon. Because nobody, but nobody, can make it out of here alone. Alone. All alone. Nobody, but nobody, can make it out of here alone. This is the Mac Oligarchy podcast, and I'm your host, Tim McClone. That was a poem by Maya Angelou called Alone. I love that poem. And I've always said in my YouTube channels stuff that it's okay to be alone and walk alone because you learn a lot about yourself, and I've had some of the best career runs and imagination during those times. But I think this is a time you want to be with your tribe right now. I've always said this is interesting times to be alive. These are epic times. And you got to focus on the good. A lot of change is happening. A lot of craziness right now. And I would just say to you, it's good to not be so quick to judge people. People might surprise you. And be kind and reach out. Put a smile on your face. And take people into your tribe. You might get lucky and it works out, it doesn't. But you might get surprised, and that's what I've been doing. It's important right now to be with your family and friends, and maybe expanding your tribe's good. But don't be afraid to be alone for a while as well. But I think it's important to be around your tribe and people you trust and love, and during these times, so you think clearly. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a battle. I truly believe this, between good and evil right now. You know, the way the winds are blowing, the energy out there. I know you're going to say, Tim, what are you, nuts? You're going to get on your preacher box? Just a little bit. Just bear with me for this. I think right now it's important, to my point about this poem, the belief in the sanctity of love and truth right now is so important. And I think a lot of people have lost their ways. And I think one thing, if you look at history, a lot of people's moral compass comes from religion. And since the COVID and the lockdowns of the churches, well, we kept the strip clubs open. What does that tell you? We kept those strip clubs open. We had, before COVID, a divine structure that allowed people to gather and come together and share ideas and thoughts and use religion to do that. And they broke that up, and they wanted to break that up. And they wanted you to go to the strip club and drink and smoke and do drugs. They don't want you to come together and talk about COVID, what symptoms you might be experiencing, or sharing Christ and what have you. They don't want that. So we lost that divine structure. And I think, unfortunately, many intelligent people right now dismiss the positive aspects of religion. They look at it as it has no place in the modern world right now. They think it's a bunch of fairy tales. It's a joke, Tim. Give me a break. And I think, really believe this in my heart, now is the time to be praying. You need to lead with religion and love. And there are forces, 100% of good and evil. I've experienced it in my life. I used to be a hardcore atheist. I'm not a hardcore religious nut. But some interesting things happen to me when I do my one-on-one with this interview I'm lining up. We'll talk about it. And I know, yes, the church is very corporate. And at the top, when we talk about the Vatican, and I did a lot of research on this, it's very corrupt. Money's going out the front door and the back, and with priests and the Vatican and children. And there's some things with human trafficking where it goes way into certain aspects of religion that I don't want to get into right now. I did a talk on the movie about the kidnapping of kids, and I kind of touched on that in this YouTube video, The Sound of Freedom. So I really believe the archetypes of the devil and God are real. And this is the key. Once you understand the archetypes are real, then you need to understand, where those archetypes come from. I mean, make no mistake about it. The devil is real. And no amount of money or power will protect you if you don't have Christ. I believe that in my head and heart. And, we've lost our way. And I just see it. And the energy's off when I'm walking around in the places I travel to. It just doesn't feel right. And there's a lot of evil forces out there right now, beating people down. And you got to be strong right now. And when you leave with Christ, you're gonna have more evil forces come at you. And I just say, I'm not here to preach, but I just think it's very trying times right now. And you look at history and you study history. Our parents' went through some very tough times. This is nothing new. And you gotta lead with love, and you gotta lead with religion. I know Bill Maher, he hates religion. He did a podcast. Forgot the guy he did it with, but I just couldn't keep my eyes off him because I was like, man, are you kidding me? He's just ripping the guy, saying, oh, you have children, that must be terrible. Oh, you believe in God, that's terrible. I just, and I know Bill, I get it. Bill wants to be on his own time. I used to see this guy at Club Blue in Hollywood. Real short guy, that's okay. I'll get into this in a minute about men, but, I mean, he was just so negative. And it's like, what are you living on earth for? You can just tell he's not happy. And then he asked the guy, hey, how much money you got in your bank account on the podcast? Like, what's your net worth? It's like, hey, what's your penis size? I mean, it's like, dude, really? What are you, 5? What's your net worth? I mean, you could tell the guy was uncomfortable. It was just really tacky. And he just seems like a miserable person. Miserable. It's cool, man. It's cool if you're not into religion. It's cool if you don't have kids. But, I do believe God put you on this earth to bring something into the world. Make a difference. Create. Shape something. And, but it's okay if you don't want to do that. But just so negative about everything. I'm just really disappointed. I mean, he's the guy when the economy was doing really well and everyone was doing well. Okay? He's the guy that said we need to crash the economy to get rid of the orange guy in office, Donald Trump. We need to crash the economy. He's the guy that said when he was on with Ben Shapiro that Donald Trump worked with Russia, and then it turned out to be fake. And then he said, well, he didn't denounce Putin. So, I mean, that whole lie has been debunked. But he still came back and said, well, he didn't denounce Putin. Let me tell you something right now. See, a savvy business professional will always say, keep your enemies close. You don't tell the guy with the largest nuclear reserves in the world, and he's a very smart guy, smarter than Biden, Obama, and smarter than Donald Trump, who had the KGB, we need to assassinate you and you're a piece of garbage. That's what Joe Biden said. You need to try to work with Putin. You need to try to work with China. Putin has the largest minerals in the world, a huge landmass, bigger than the United States, and unbelievable military now, especially since Ukraine. We've enabled them, and you keep your enemies close. So, Bill, once you learn that, you don't publicly tell you're going to assassinate Putin. He's a thug. Every president of every country in the world, including the United States, kills people. And we've killed a lot of people in the name of democracy. So it's shameful. I'll debate you any day of the week, pal. Any day of the week, anywhere, anytime. Anytime. So it's just disappointing. So the last podcast, I talked about the feminization of men. And I quoted some psychologists and studies. And I know the girls out there have it really tough. I really feel sorry for girls right now with this Instagram and social media and the TikTok where, people Photoshop their photos. And these poor girls, there's been suicide. And girls, I'll just tell you, these girls don't look like that. And for the boys, I think that the thing with the boys is this pressure to be in shape and look good and sculpt the body. And you've had a lot of deaths of people from performance-enhancing drugs starting this TRT and all these steroids very early. And I'm concerned about it. I'm very concerned about it. And, that's why I kind of want to hit it from a different angle. I focused on the feminization of men, but I just want to focus on boys. And I'm not picking a specific, gay guys. I looked at this psychologically. They really appreciate men's bodies. Men on men appreciate men's bodies. But what I'm going to argue for you guys is women don't care as much how your physique looks. Yes, women will look at your face and see if they're attracted to you. And then number two, and we've done focus groups on this in studies, psychological studies when I was in psychology. This is something that I focused on. And I've also had a lot of dinners with a lot of different cultures throughout the world, and we've asked these questions. And you see the cattiness of women when they leave the dinner table, and men, how they talk. I've had thousands of those discussions. And so I think I've taken away a few things about this. And like I said, women don't care if your bicep is 16 or 18 inches, guys. But yes, they look, the most important was how you look in your face, of course. And number two, how tall you are. But there's little things. Oh, wow, I like his feet, or I like his hands. Oh, he's got, I like the way he dressed. Oh, he's got a cute butt. We looked at all this stuff in a psychological study. They don't care if your pec is this big. And a lot of women, don't want a hardcore six-pack. I don't want a hardcore six-pack on a girl. I've dated bodybuilding girls and all these things. So what I wanted to say is women don't care about that stuff. They don't. And the guys that, wear a large shirt, but they walk around in a small, you guys are doing yourself a disservice. I'll go back in the day. I used to work out at Lee Haney's gym in Atlanta, Georgia. I was 240 and ripped. I was the guy that walked around with my tuna at midnight, and I would leave the bar and go have my tuna and my rice cakes. No doubt. And I was dating, and girls would say to me, literally, I would never date that guy. He's too obsessed. He's too big. They call me Rico Suave. He's too big. But what I'm going to argue to you is I met more girls when I was out of shape than when I was in shape, and had better times. And my point is, don't be so extreme. If you're in really good shape, my recommendation to you is to hide your body. And don't put AC/DC on in the car. Put classical music. You'll really freak the girl out. And if the girl says to you, hey, do you work out? I swim. I do some yoga because I love to eat. You know how that worked for me wonderfully? Don't be the guy that wears the small shirt and talks about the gym, unless you're dating a fitness girl and that's what she wants to talk about. And you're dating someone you met in the gym and you guys love to talk about working out. But majority of girls don't want to talk about that stuff. And this is going to freak you out. The more beautiful a woman is, the more insecure she is. And back then, I used to date girls that said I would never date a guy that gets more attention than me. And I just want to say this, girls, there's a lot of nice guys out there that are in really good shape, good looking, and you're doing yourself a disservice. They're really nice, and you're losing out. I am telling you, when I first came to LA, it happened all the time. And I'm just talking about myself. When I was in really good shape, more shape than I am now, I had a tougher time. And, they don't care about it, guys. And the more beautiful a girl is, the more insecure she is. And in my opinion, overall, not in Colombia, not in Brazil, not in Riga, not in Spain, but the European girls, in my opinion, didn't care. And I met a mentor a long time ago. He's like, Tim, the guys, and it's still the same today, getting all the girls are the skinny guys in skinny jeans with skinny ties. When we're talking Victoria's Secret models, left and right, go to Europe, go to Spain, go to Italy, my Italian friends, and that's what it's all about. So my point is, don't be so obsessed with the gym. Put the classical music on the car, not the AC/DC. Girl asks you, do you work out because you look like you're in shape? Blow it off. I work out a little bit. I swim and do yoga because I love to eat Italian food. Okay? If you date a fitness girl, then talk to fitness. But don't be the douchebag with the small shirt in the bar. Dress appropriately. Dress nice. But I'm telling you, in my world travels, the skinny guy's got all the hot girls. And yes, if you're 5'4" and you're not attractive, you're hating it. But there's just a lot out there for you guys. There's a guy that says 5'9" is short. I don't believe that, folks, and I think he's doing men a disservice. 5'9", guys, is not short. You're doing fine. 5'8" is not short. Okay? It's how you carry yourself. That's not short. Okay? So don't listen to that crap. And I don't believe anyone needs TRT, and I've done a lot of studies. I used to work for a clinic, and I used to be neck deep in this stuff, and I know all about it. 99.9% of men do not need TRT or steroids when you're in your 20s or 30s. You don't need it. And we have people advocating this, and I see it online. I think it's terrible. You don't need it. You don't need it. And you're screwing up your body. You know, you got to have 5 years under your belt if you want to compete, in my opinion. And you want to mess around with that stuff. I don't think you should mess around with it before you're 25. With your bone growth and your brain development, I've studied all the studies on it. You don't want to mess around with that stuff. But my point is, if you're doing it because you want to meet the opposite sex, you're wasting your time. If you're doing it because you compete, I get it. I get it. But if you're doing it because you want to have a beach body and you think girls are going to like it, a lot of girls don't care. I'm going to talk about one of my friends, case in point. He never worked out. Got the hottest girls all the time. Charismatic, confident, good-looking guy, though. You know, he's 5'10", whatever. But he never worked out. And a lot of my friends don't. You know, I'll get into why I worked out. It has nothing to do. I knew at 24 I never needed to work out to meet the opposite sex. Never needed to. I just like the feeling. And there's a reason why, and I'll get into it another day, why I train and do martial arts and hit the bag, not just hit the iron. But I feel sorry for you young men out there, and I just wanted to say kind of what I went through. I went through that, but it was an eye-opener in Atlanta and in Spain the second time when I left Atlanta. I had a tough time there meeting girls when I was in my best shape, and they said, I would never date you. You look conceited, blah, blah, blah. I bet you go to the gym all the time, Tim. I bet you're terrible in bed. And then when I was in Spain, that was the eye-opener. And I dated a girl that said, you don't need to do this. What are you doing? But I liked the regimen of it. I needed that regimen because I was going through a tough time, and that's what it was about for me. So you don't need it, guys. But if you're going to do it because you have this idea that you want to sculpt a physique because you want to compete, okay, fine. My advice to you is get 5 years under your belt of training before you mess around with any performance-enhancing drugs. So don't be so obsessed. You'd be surprised what women really want in a man. And it's not 20-inch arms and walk around with Terminator glasses looking like a douchebag. Okay? I mean, I appreciate good bodies, men and women, and I like the feeling, and it feels good. But I always did better when I was hiding my body and kind of out of shape, not so obsessed. So just be careful out there. It's crazy. Okay? So Elon Musk made a comment the other day. He said the massive flow of illegal immigration is due to, and this is what I said, the massive flow of illegal immigration is due to 94 executive actions by the Biden administration. Until those executive actions are revoked, claims by Biden that he wants to address illegal immigration are a bold-faced lie. That's from Elon Musk, and I've always said this. Day one in office, he overturned the Trump policies which were working. He keeps saying he wants to pass a bill. His new bill allows 5,000 illegal immigrants to come in a day. It's a joke. So Elon Musk, the massive flood of illegal immigration is due to 94, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Biden did 94 executive actions by the Biden administration day one in office. So until those executive actions are revoked, claims by Biden that he wants to address illegal immigration are a bold-faced lie. A bold-faced lie. And it's just such a joke. I am so sick of this because I have people that have been touched by this on the border. I have friends that are Border Patrol agents. We do a lot of business in Mexico, and I talk to people in Mexico every other day. We have properties down there, and I love the people of Mexico. I do, and there's a lot going on because there's been American companies in Mexico that have been raided and taken over because of Joe Biden's policies. They weren't doing that under Trump. It's some scary stuff is going on down there right now. You have 5 cartels fighting for territory when you had 3. And the way it works is when I was going there 15 years ago, you only had 2 cartels. And they get half, let's say half the city, and the other cartel gets the other city. But a lot of the cartels have come in from other areas, and they're coming to Cancun and Playa del Carmen, for example. So take Playa del Carmen. Playa del Carmen, the drug cartel collects $35 million a month from the restaurants in the city. So they charge a vig to the restaurant. Every month they have to pay the cartel money. They collect $35 million. So, a couple other cartels see this going on and they want to break in. There's been some harassment, some problems down there. They kind of got a little more under control. But because of Joe Biden's lax policies, they think they can be the Wild West down there. and it's hurting tourism a little bit. And he's just running it like just complete stupidity. And for Mayorkas to say that, oh, we can't do anything, Mexico, Trump told Mexico, you can pound sand or we'll stop trading with you. Mexico needs us more than we need him. That guy ran with his tail between his legs, and they changed their policies. And if Joe Biden would say that to them, we don't answer to Mexico. They answer to us. So for Mayorkas to say, oh, if we run this by them, they're not going to change, bullshit. They answer to us, and they will change on a dime. So they're bull-faced lying. And ladies and gentlemen, you have 100 countries coming across the border. We don't know who they are. So, I mean, I don't care who you are. I do well under Biden, and I do well under Trump. I don't care who wins. Call me a globalist. We have rentals. We have whatever. We will increase our rents. We're invested in the stock market. I will do well under Joe Biden or Donald Trump. But I don't like what I see happening in this country. What is going on with the border? What is going on with inflation? It doesn't need to happen in our country at all. 100%. It's a joke. I don't like how they're treating our citizens. It's terrible. So I did a talk on my last podcast about Laken Riley, who got killed by an illegal immigrant. Right now, there's been a media blackout, and thousands have gathered to mourn her death at a vigil. So this is the young woman that I talked about in the podcast that was murdered by an illegal immigrant on the college campus, bringing more attention to the open border madness right now. Almost every major mainstream media outlet ignored this massive gathering. Thousands of people gathered to mourn her death, and no major media outlets covered it. It's absolutely atrocious. So they gathered at the University of Georgia on Monday to remember the life of the 22-year-old nursing student, Laken Riley, who was brutally murdered by an illegal immigrant while she went out for a morning jog on her college campus. The murder suspect, 26-year-old Jose Antonio Ibarra, illegally crossed in El Paso, Texas in September 2022 and was released from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection custody, according to several ICE and DHS sources. So the vast majority of the mainstream media totally ignored the large gathering because it clearly contradicts the narrative they're bringing, being told to push, which is that there is no border crisis and millions of unknown illegals are entering the country. Is a good thing. It's a good thing. Several local media outlets covered the vigil, but it appears as if they, only national news coverage came from the AP News, a YouTube video, and Yahoo News reposted an article from Fox 5 Atlanta. So searches on both YouTube and Georgia for the University of Georgia. This is interesting. So if you went to YouTube and searched for the University of Georgia vigil, or, Laken Riley vigil, only results coverage from news outlets Axios, Yahoo, and The Independent, in addition to sole AP video. That's it. So they censored it. The United States of America censored it. Network talking news heads didn't even cover the massive vigil, and outlets like CNN even told readers that, conservatives upset about the murder are exploiting her death as a symbol of xenophobia or hate. Give me a break. They said he's not a representative of immigrants, nor oh really? We have people from Iran that want to do terrorist acts. They had one guy, he's like, you just wait and see what I do. We have people from Somalia. Like I said, the FBI, and I have friends who are in law enforcement. They tell me what's going on, and a Fed friend. And they're catching some people left and right, but a lot of people are getting through that don't want to work here. And a lot of illegal immigrants are coming here and they're realizing there's no work. They don't have the skills. It's not all cotton farmers. 80% of these people can't speak English. And there is no jobs for them. So, their narrative saying, we don't even know if he's guilty. And they're saying, I look at both sides of this. Let me tell you right now, I'm not a fan of Democrats and I'm not a fan of Rhino Republicans. Both parties are shameful. It's a uniparty at the top, and both parties need to be weeded out and stop this madness. It's just unbelievable. CNN says it's you're casting all immigrants as violent criminals, as harmful and inaccurate. CNN article stated. Okay, then let's cover both sides of it, because it's not all. They're trying to make it look like it's all just candy, candy and chocolates and whatever. Let's cover both sides of it. If you have true credibility, you would have covered the vigil, but you didn't cover it. So, of course, X, which is somewhat more free now, but I would say it's still censored and still monitored. Who knows who's working inside there? X users slam the media for its blatant hypocrisy and failing to provide more coverage of both the murder itself and the vigil. Uh, you know, so I think this transitions nicely into why we need the border closed. And if you look at HHS figures, and I talked about this in a YouTube video, and this is very alarming. Approximately 85,000 migrant children, all between the ages of 13 and 17, have gone missing in the U.S. since 2022. Okay? They've gone missing. So they go to these homes, and they're set up to traffic people. They go to an intermediary and they disappear. They disappear to the interiors of the United States, and who knows where they're going in addition to the United States. So Wisconsin Attorney General Alan Wilson, along with 22 other AGs, sent a letter to the Biden administration this week demanding answers on the trafficking of migrant children and why the government can't determine the whereabouts of 85,000 minors. Hey, I just lost them. We're not tracking them. There's no cards on these people or nothing. They're not in the system. So here's how it works, and I dug into this, and I think this is really important. Thousands of migrant children have gone missing from sponsor homes. A probe reveals. Thousands of illegal alien children have gone missing from sponsors' homes in the U.S. after being placed there by the federal government, according to a watchdog investigation. And it was an investigation by the Center for Public Integrity, and they focused on a small town in Virginia where at least 35 mostly Guatemalan children have gone missing since 2017, upwards of 55. They were all deemed unaccompanied minors by the Office of Refuge Resettlement, the ORR, and placed with sponsors under the auspices of the Department of Health and Human Services. So once the children were placed into the sponsor's care, the government no longer had custody authority and stopped tracking their whereabouts. You know what? It's a big setup game. These sponsors go hand in hand with the government folks, ladies and gentlemen, and these poor kids just disappear. So between January 2018 and April 2023, ORR's National Call Center, it's a 24-hour phone helpline created to advise and connect unaccompanied minors and their families with local resources during a crisis. They received over 7,000 calls reporting runaway migrant children, records obtained and analyzed by the Public Integrity Show. So, of course, HHS has declined multiple requests for interviews by Public Integrity and Scripps News. So, in response to questions about how the department was tracking and investigating these cases, HHS said via email that ORR's legal custody and authority over the unaccompanied children ends when the child is released to the vetted sponsor. Ooh, now it's a vetted sponsor. These are human traffickers, I would argue, ladies and gentlemen. And I used to live in Texas for 3 years in Austin. I had some good times. It was a little small for me. And I lived in San Antonio. And I met a guy, and we were having lunch in San Antonio. And he said to me, he goes, "Hey, Tim, do you got any kids?" I said, "No." He goes, good. He goes, "This area, there's 3 freeways. And, we were in a district like there was a Costco, there was a Home Depot, and there was all these food outlets. So we went to get something to eat. But he's like, there's 3 freeways. He was like, this is the biggest area where kids are kidnapped. And they're on the freeway in 2 seconds and you'll never see them again. Kidnappings happen here all the time. In the parking lots, what have you." I'm like, wow. So I said, interesting. This guy was a brand manager, for Big Tobacco. And that's when I worked in tobacco. And I asked him, and he goes, "Well, on the side, I work in human trafficking on the weekends. And at nights, I take calls a couple weeks and work with these guys." And he laid it all out for me. The big web on the border. What's really going on? What's going on with Mexico? What's going on with DHS? All this stuff. And HHS. So, I don't know how it's disgusting. Let's just put it that way. We are complicit. And we're enabling it. And like I said, it's a $35 billion a year business. It's big money. And the drug business is a $1 trillion a year business. They want that border open because of human trafficking and drugs. Like I said, I'm going to repeat it. The child can be sold not once, not twice, but 10 times. And so there's a lot of money to be made. And there's a lot of people that want to sleep and abuse little boys and girls. And it's shameful. I say I did a video, and one of my comments said, I said, if you want to hurt a little boy or girl, you should be put in front of a firing squad. And someone commented on one of my comments, and I said, it's worse than murder, right? Abusing a child. That child's soul will be ripped from them for the rest of their life. And this comment, they said, Tim, murder's worse than abusing a child. I would strongly disagree with that. I appreciate the person's point of view, but give me a break. I would strongly disagree with that. You hurt an innocent 5, 8-year-old girl or boy and sexually molest them. Their life is ruined forever. It's a life of pain and coping. And we study this in psychology. So I would disagree with that. And shame on you for saying it. So this is something I'm passionate about. And in the air of transparency, I kind of blew it off back in the day when he told me this. And, I spent a lot of time thinking about it. Then I met another individual in San Diego. And I've been trying to get involved. And I met someone in Wisconsin who's actually involved and goes to D.C. because of this legislation and happened in Wisconsin. And I know someone who's a special forces guy. And I'm trying to work with him on some stuff. It's in the infancy stages right now. To get these things going takes time. But it's something that I'm passionate about, and I want to get more involved. And I think it's terrible to hurt children. And everyone should, and that's what's happening at the border. You could talk about labor and all this stuff, but they're not talking about the human trafficking and the drugs and the fentanyl. It's done by design. Chinese nationals are in Mexico helping with the fentanyl. 100% true. I live down in Mexico. Spent 6 months times. Back in the day, I go there 4 to 6 months a year, so I know what's going on. So the ORR has no jurisdiction over where or with whom the child lives after they, have been released to the sponsor. Who's that sponsor? So if a child moves in with a different individual, they would not be considered a sponsor or potential sponsor. They just disappear into the madness, ladies and gentlemen. And that's how it's set up. So the Biden open border policy has not only resulted in an unprecedented humanitarian political crisis for the millions of unvetted illegals pouring into the cities, but child trafficking crisis as well. And that is the key. Joe Biden and his administration have bloods on it. If you're a corporation, you're happy about getting some cheap labor, and I know it's happening. Think of all the children that are trafficked and killed and disappeared. It's disgusting. And I wouldn't want to have blood on my hands and look in the mirror every morning with that. Something needs to be done about it. It's sick. I talked about this in California. Democrats in Colorado shot down a bill that would have mandated harsher punishment for pedophiles who brought and sold children for sex. They shot it down. Why would anyone want to protect pedophiles? That's the Democratic Party. Colorado Democrats block legislation punishing child sex traffickers, suggest criminals are also victims. They killed the bill. It would have instituted minimum sentencing for offenders convicted of selling or buying children for the purpose of exploitation. So let's take another state. This is unbelievable. It's shocking. So while conservative states like Florida have passed legislation to institute the death penalty for criminals guilty of sexual abuse and child trafficking, don't you think the death penalty should be instituted? What happens if it was your daughter or your son? It's becoming more and more difficult in blue states to punish pedophiles at all. No other issue so fully reflects the growing rift between the political left and everyone else in America today. I said this in my YouTube video, ladies and gentlemen, if we can't even agree that child sex abusers should face severe punishment, then how can we possibly agree on anything else? We've lost our way in this country. And, it's putting a gun to my head for both Democrats and Republicans. They're both just off their rockers and lost their ways. But you put a gun to my head, at least the Republicans are saying, hey, we don't believe in trying to pass laws to stop child sex trafficking and put these people in jail. But the Democrats, they don't want to do that. So the Democrats struck down House Bill 1092, a bill that would have instituted minimum sentencing for offenders convicted of selling or buying children for the purpose of exploitation. So you might be wondering, at this point, whose side the Democrats are on, man? They assert that pedophilia is a form of sexual orientation. And I broke this down in two different articles. So it's just really goofy. So it's a form of sexual orientation, and once something is labeled an orientation, it suddenly becomes a protected group status. But not all behavior should be tolerated in civilized society, and just because someone might be a victim, that does not justify their victimization of others. That is key. So, civilized society, just because someone might be a victim, does not justify their victimization of others, folks. And that's it right there. Oh, they're a victim? Okay, it's okay for you to victimize other people then, because you're a victim. Leftist states have increasingly targeted children with sexualized pedophilia, including unproven gender fluid theories, to drag shows, trans indoctrination, to sex change hormones, and operations on minors without parental consent. It's disgusting. To pornographic content in school, libraries. Not long ago, Democrats denied any of these activities were real and accused conservatives of conspiracy theories, if you remember, and they had to actually go read the books and all these things. Now that they've been thoroughly exposed, the leftist response is to defend the sexualization of children rather than to admit they are wrong. Folks, this is what I said on my last podcast. Is it okay to talk about sex between a man and a woman with a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old? No, it's not. So it's not okay to talk about transgenderism and all this stuff and take your kid to a drag show. And if you're taking your kid to a drag show, it's disgusting. You should be put in jail. Kids are going through a tough time. Childhood was so tough. Kids can be so cruel. Everything shapes you, 0 to 5, 0 to 10. Look at the studies. Kids are so vulnerable, and they're developing 700 new connections a day in their brain when they're born every day. And the inquisitiveness and learning. Wait till your kid comes to you and says, hey, I'm having these thoughts about boys or girls, and let them get their feelings out. But you don't do a transgender surgery until that kid has gone through puberty. You're going to screw them up 100%, you morons. And you wait till they're 18 and then they're an adult and they make the decision for themselves. You don't make it for them. Okay, so they're 15 and they start dressing because they want to, not because you make them dress as a woman if they're a man. But you don't go through these surgeries until you're an adult. You go to therapy, you talk to a psychologist, and look at all the people that went through the surgeries. And I've watched the videos, and more than a few have regretted getting the surgery at 16, at 15. You're still developing. Your brain is not fully developed to your 20s. What are you doing? I saw some trendy parents, with the trendy mask on, and they had, their kids dressed up as, the two boys were dressed as girls. Hey, I'm not, I don't know if they want that or not, but it's just, they're wearing their mask through their meal and taking the mask off, and this is like 4 months ago. So, would you agree, ladies and gentlemen, that we shouldn't talk about straight sex with a man and a woman with a 5-year-old? Okay, I think you would agree with that, unless you're twisted. So we shouldn't be talking about gay sex. I'm all for the trans community. What is there, 750,000 trans people? It's a minority out of 330 million people. I'm all for the trans community. I have a lot of gay friends. I do. And, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. So please don't try to label me as a racist. But kids are so vulnerable. Let them figure out things for themselves. Don't start changing their hormones and putting them under the knife, and then they're going to come back to you and regret it. Let the kids be kids. It's just disgusting. It's terrible. All right. Moving on. So I just wanted to talk a little business. This is important. Illegal aliens will get interest-free home loans. We need to talk about a little real estate. Isn't this nice? Illegal aliens will get interest-free home loans under a new Democratic California bill. So the social and economic benefits of home ownership should be available to everyone, says Democratic Assembly members. California Democrats once again prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens, this time by introducing a bill that would allow illegals to receive interest-free home loans, ladies and gentlemen. Interest-free home loans. So, Assembly Bill 1840 that would extend first-time homebuyer loan program to illegal aliens, the California Dream for All Shared Appreciation Loan Program that launched last March by the California Housing Finance Agency offers qualified first-time homebuyers with a loan worth up to 20% of the purchase price of a house or condominium. The loan doesn't incur interest or require monthly payments. You ain't living free, baby. Instead, when the mortgage is refinanced or the home is sold again, the borrower pays back the original amount of the loan plus 20%, yeah, sure, of the increased home value. There is a loophole, they said. Probably Gavin Newsom would take it back in a foreclosure. Now, they did pass a law in California where once foreclosures happen, the state gets access to those foreclosures first. And you think, as Gavin Newsom says, he's going to help the poor and help the underprivileged. No, he's going to sell those homes to his cronies and institutional bankers like happened in 2008. Trust me, they get first dibs on the property. I've been part of these meetings and I work with developers. So I see what's going on. So, of course, the song and dance is the program is established to help low and middle income individuals buy a home, but the program doesn't address eligibility based on immigration status. And you remember this comes after California became the first state to provide free health care benefits to illegal aliens in January. It's unbelievable. So now you get a free home. And we got more Americans living on the street. So you remember the taxpayer-funded healthcare sham also includes, sex changes for illegal immigrants, the cost of which is believed to top $3 billion. You want a free sex change? American taxpayers are going to cover that too. It's a clown show, folks. It's an absolute clown show. A Harvard housing report found that home ownership has become increasingly unaffordable. Yes, it has in California, despite the exodus of people leaving the state. And remember this, there is a net negative migration, but you have illegal immigrants coming in and they're counting that to offset the net negative migration. So, can you imagine if Democrats cared about their own citizens the same way they do for illegal aliens? How great this country would be. And the Democrats would get a lot of people, the party that I used to love and vote for. I didn't vote in the last election. Call me, it's terrible, but I didn't. And I was a Kennedy Democrat, man, and the Democratic Party that I know and love. If you guys would just, you took away the working man, so you have the welfare class, which is great. All my really, really rich friends, got a lot of them, are limousine liberals, and they will vote for globalists in themselves because they're global, and they captured that class. So I mean, it's interesting what they did, and then the working party moved over to the Republicans. But you have the ultra poor class, they've captured that, and it's just the politics is unbelievable. You remember last year when the Democrats said Florida's a racist state, and then it finally came out because of Gavin Newsom's policies that more black businesses in the last 2 years have been opened up in Florida than any other state. Wow, what a racist state. More black businesses have opened up in Florida than any other state. Okay? Because they cut the regulations. They made it easy for people to do business. And California's upped the regulations. And, it's just stupid. It's just stupid. So let's just talk about the election real quick. Some of this stuff fascinates me. I just want to top line this real quick. Democrats must scare the shit out of people over Trump in 2024, says MSNBC's Donnie Douche. This guy is unbelievable. In the absence of a successful platform to run on, they admitted it. We don't have a successful platform to run on. So we need to bring back Russia collusion. We need to bring back this guy. He argued Sunday on Dateline White House that Democrats and the media's task until November is to instill fear of Trump into the electorate in hopes that they will vote for Joe Biden. Racists, Nazis, It's interesting. Somebody said to me, "Are you afraid if he gets reelected?" He said when he was at dinner one night. And I haven't thought about it. Like, is he going to come after me? Is he going to come after Joe? Is he going to come after, the military? You know what, ladies and gentlemen? It's a case of pure projection. This douchebag, Donnie Douche claimed that Trump will mobilize the U.S. military and judicial system to target political opposition if elected. Everything that they say that Republicans are doing, they're doing. They said that half the Trump people or more are losers and deplorables. Do you know the average Trump voter makes $70,000 a year? $70,000 a year. Did you know that? And this guy gets in office and says he's going to unite the country, and then dismisses half the country and says we got F-16s. It's going to take a lot more than guns because he wants to take away your gun rights. This guy has been the most decisive president in U.S. history. Okay, remember they said Trump's going to crash the stock market. Stock market went up when he won. All these lies. Look what happened to our economy. $2 gas. Let me tell you what he did a lot of Americans don't know. And I got a lot of problems with Trump. Trump stopped China from dumping their goods in this country. He cut them off. He cut them off at the knees. He called out the EU to pay their 2%, and they started paying. He did a lot of great things. Wages went up in this country, the tax bill, a lot of good things. And he passed those ominous spending bills like a drunken sailor and spent money like Joe Biden, but I would argue Mitch McConnell forced him to do that. And he had to fight his party. Everyone around him was a bunch of sharks, except a few people. And he still got a lot done. But I got a problem with both parties, okay? But for this guy, to say the things and be decisive, you're causing a rift in this country, and it's done by design because they want rift and they want to divide and conquer and don't want people getting along. But ladies and gentlemen, it's classic pure projection. Everything they say that Republicans are doing, they are doing. They have divided. They are being racist. It's just unbelievable. And I got a problem with the Rhino Republicans too. But you know what? This is my theme. America, love it or leave it. Both parties. You don't love it, get the hell out of here and go live somewhere else. So he thinks, you just got to scare the shit out of people. And he said, this is what he said. He goes, if Trump wins, freedoms will end. Things like women birth control will go away. Ladies and gentlemen, with regards to abortion, it was illegal how it was done, Roe v. Wade, and it just kicked it back to the States. I can't tell you how many conversations I had all over when I was traveling a lot during COVID, and I was traveling a lot. The people said, oh, abortion's gone. It just kicked it back to the States, and the liberal states got more liberal. Christ, and you have an abortion up to 12 months or 9 months. People are sick. So it just kicked it back to the States. It didn't go away, but people believed it because they listened to the television. It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So I think this fear campaign will likely fall on deaf ears, given Americans are already in a frightening situation with rampant inflation, a collapse of the border that's led to millions of illegal aliens streaming into the homeland, soaring crime, and the prospect of entering into World War III against Russia over Ukraine. These globalists want war with Russia. They just can't help themselves. We have weapons labs. We have bioweapons labs. We've been in Ukraine since 2014. We have CIA safe houses. We've been there a long time fighting a proxy war with them. Make no mistake about it, it just didn't happen when Putin went in. We've expanded NATO 1,000 miles east when that was the red line for Russia, and that's why he went in. We forced him. So, hey, Donnie, I'll say this to you. You're a rich guy. You're a millionaire. You don't understand right now, and I have a lot of Democratic friends on the West Coast that I talk to that are hardcore Democrats. They're scared of the Democrats right now. They've gone too far left. Friends that live in Beverly Hills, friends that are getting robbed in Encino, Santa Barbara, Calabasas. I've talked to some people. There's crime on Melrose. I was in a restaurant I was in a meeting with a doctor for La Cienega. And there was a nice Mexican restaurant. I always go there and have a couple tapas before I met him for dinner. And they said they got robbed right before I went in there, like 2 hours before. And, it's just unbelievable. So, people right now, they can't afford food. And I'm talking over half of America. Everyone was doing pretty well under Trump, okay? And they pushed too far. So one guy said, I took some quotes. One guy said, I went to a convenience store, got 5 items that would have cost $9. $8 to $9 under Trump, they cost $17.50 now. So all the Democrats have right now is hate and fear, because Donnie Douche even admitted we don't have a platform. And that's why don't you guys talk about the platform? Okay, I'll do well under Democrats because, like I said, we got rental properties. But I don't like to see people get hurt. How can you look at this party and have an open border like we do and people are getting killed? It's terrible. So Biden sure as hell can't run on his record And I doubt he's going to get the Riley's, Laker Riley's endorsement, but he sure has yours, right? Kudos. He sure has Donnie's. Donnie's going to vote for him. Wants to keep his job, making millions of dollars at CNN, pushing the propaganda. So, are we not on the verge of World War III right now with Biden and Ukraine? You know, they are really pushing Russia. You know, so it's just, you know, it's like you need 4 generals to make up hypotheticals to say Trump could be as bad as he is really reality right now. You know, it's just so it's an election year, and I just want to talk about voting real quick. You know, AG Merrick Garland calls voter ID laws unnecessary. Mr. Garland, he appears to be at odds with viewpoints held by the vast majority of Americans. There's been a lot of polls since 2020. At least 11 U.S. states have strengthened voter identification requirements. Georgia requires voters who lack driver's license or state ID cards to include in their absentee ballot applications a photocopy of another government-issued ID. But check this out. 14 states and Washington, D.C. do not require any documentation to vote at the polls. Those states, Maine, Vermont, New York, California, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Minnesota, Illinois, New Mexico, Nevada. You don't need ID. Come on in. Hawaii, Oregon. I saw the map. It's unbelievable. And like I said, polls have shown that a significant majority of Americans back photo identification laws to cast votes, including a Gallup poll from late 2022 that found 8 in 10 Americans support them. Significant majorities of Democrats, Black, even Latino, and low-income voters also support such laws and proposals. And that's according to the Heritage Foundation article. Voters across all demographics support voter ID laws in virtually every poll by almost 80%. I've seen it on CNN. They had to admit it. This typically includes more than 60% of Democrats want this. You know, adding that 64% of Black voters, 77% of Hispanics, and 76% of low-income voters back voter ID laws. So I got to cover both sides because I look at both sides, but opponents of voter ID measures do not object to the requirement that voters verify their identity when voting, which is already standard in every state, but rather, you know, the means used to verify them. They claim that a significant portion of U.S. voters don't have a photo ID, such as a driver's license, state ID card, or passport. That's bullshit. Listen, if I go to a ball game, I need to show my ID to get a beer. Tell me, you know, if I need to drive a car, I need to show my ID to a police officer. The list goes on and on. Okay, if you don't have the responsibility to have an ID, you don't deserve to vote in an election, period. So don't tell me that you don't have a driver's license, state ID card. And if you're an illegal alien, you shouldn't be allowed to vote in this country for any election. All right. I know I'm getting into the politics a little bit, but it's an election year and I want to talk about it because it affects business. But like I said, every podcast I end on a health tip. I got a quick one for you. I've been going through on my YouTube channel talking about, you know, my 44 pearls for health and fitness. I'm on number 16 now. So number 16 of my 44 pearls for health and fitness. NAC, it's a supplement. Acetylcrystalline. It's a supplement it's an essential amino acid. So NAC has many health benefits, including replenishing antioxidants and nourishing your brain. So I love this product. You know, I'll take, you know, about a bottle and a half. I believe in moderation for everything. I go off for, you know, 2 to 4 weeks and then go back on. But what it does is, number one, it helps replenish glutathione levels in the body. It also aids in the regulating of glutamate. So these functions may help improve brain health and benefits people with conditions such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease. And NAC may help with psychiatric disorders. I just felt my mood was better. I was focused. And also helps, they think, with addictive behaviors. So NAC is found in most, high protein foods such as, chicken, turkey, yogurt, cheese, eggs, sunflower seeds. You're just, the food is so contaminated now. I think, a lot of the supplement companies are garbage. They're not regulated. I have a few that I trust and deal with, and I can talk about that later. But this is number 2 is a big thing, and I take it in addition to one of my health tips, which was Live 52, liver enzymes to help detoxify your system. And this NAC helps with detoxification to prevent or diminish kidney and liver damage. So I always throw this in like 3 or 4 times a year. Like I said, it may help improve mental health conditions and substance use disorders. It helps relieve symptoms of respiratory conditions too, as well. There's some good studies like loosening up mucus in your air passageways, and it boosts your brain health by regulating glutamate and replenishing glutathione. So, and it may improve fertility in both men and women, and help stabilize, blood sugar by decreasing inflammation in the fat cells. And there is some good research on heart disease risk by preventing oxidative damage. So the thing though is NAC has a low bioavailability as an oral supplement, meaning your body does not absorb it well. So I suggest you take more. The accepted daily supplement recommendation is 600 to 1800 milligrams a day. I take 1800 to 2000, and I take it twice a day. I just think that it's a good product. It also is good for your skin. Your skin will clear up and just look more refreshed. But it's a good product to protect your organs in addition to Live 52, in my opinion, and cayenne pepper. And that is my quick health tip number 16. We got a long way to go. So that concludes podcast 4. And I'll leave you with this. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. And this podcast, America, love it or leave it. God bless America. Take care.